आज की तकरीब का आगाज़ करते हैं. A very warm welcome to everybody who has joined us today at this seminar on the Strategic Mutual Defense Agreement between Saudi Arabia and Pakistan. As we all know, Pakistan has a unique relationship, has always had a unique relationship with Saudi Arabia. And this is a defense pact and a landmark development in the security landscape of the region, including the Middle East. It was signed on the 17th of September, 2025. Saudi Arabia has traditionally had very strong economic and political ties with Pakistan, including military ties. Pakistani professionals, doctors, engineers, experts, and laborers have helped in the development of Saudi Arabia and have played a very important role in its progress. We also know that in times of distress, Saudi Arabia has many times bailed out Pakistan financially. Pakistan, on the other hand, has stationed and sometimes sent troops to Saudi Arabia whenever the security of the kingdom was threatened or whenever the royal family itself was threatened. This pact states that aggression against either country will mean aggression against the other. And some people compare it to the NATO-style collective security, in which if one NATO country is attacked, it is considered an attack on all of them. There is also the aspect of nuclear deterrence, and this understanding gives Pakistan the role of a net security provider, as we see that the United States of America its role fades or diminishes as the traditional security provider of the region. There are some critics of this defense pact. There are many critics, some of them even within Pakistan, but especially there is a concern in our big neighbor India, about its effects on the politics of the region. In Iran, on the other hand, our other neighbor has welcomed the pact as a positive development. India has taken a neutral stance. As you know, that India and the United States and Saudi Arabia have very close links. So far as the nuclear program, I'm sure that the General Saab will speak about that aspect. I won't talk about it much, except that MBS, the Saudi prince, once said that he could simply buy a nuclear bomb from Pakistan. And there is a difference, however, between the NATO stand and that of this defense arrangement, because NATO's Article 5 speaks of armed attack and not of aggression. So to discuss this issue, we have two very, very distinguished speakers. General Talat Masood, I welcome you on behalf of the members of this institute and on my own behalf. And I remember with great affection the time in which I knew you when I was posted in Islamabad. You were also very affectionate to me. General Talat Masood, one of the finest officers of the Pakistan Army. He was Federal Secretary, Defense Production, the Government of Pakistan. By training, he is an engineer, and he has a military career spanning 40 years. He spent 40 years, almost 40 years, in Pakistan's Army Corps of EME. He has held many important positions related to Pakistan's armed forces. He was Chairman, Heavy Industries Textile. He was Chairman, Pakistan Ordnance Factories, in which he contributed in both positions to the development of weapons systems. He participated in the 1965 and 1971 wars against India, and after retirement, he became a consultant to many think tanks abroad. Today, we know him as an eminent scholar, an outstanding scholar, and as a leading analyst on security issues and on global affairs. His views and his analyses are very widely sought. And I want to show you this book that he has written, An Incredible Journey of Pakistan, Evolution, Landmark Events, and Their Impact. It has just been published. The other distinguished speaker today is a life member of this institute, Dr. Afzal Aqdas. He is at present economic advisor, micro-fiscal policies at Saudi Arabia's Ministry of Finance, based in Riyadh. He has taught at many, many universities: Habib University, Military College of Signals, NUST, Rockhurst University, at the Lahore University of Management Sciences, and he has interacted with many international and national organizations like the Pakistan Poverty Alleviation Fund and Kashf Foundation, which I think is based in Lahore. He has a PhD in economics from the University of Missouri, Kansas City, from the United States of America. His PhD is in economics, and he writes regularly for the print media. So it is my very great pleasure to first request General Talat Masood to address us.
Thank you. Thank you, madam. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. Respected Mohtarma Dr. Masuma and ladies and gentlemen, it's my great pleasure to be here once again. I have spoken once, I think, if I remember correctly, and I have great respect and I great value the excellent work that Dr. Masuma is doing. I'm going to speak today to you that, and I have given it the heading of Pakistan in the middle of the Middle East. And I deliberately sort of gave that sort of a heading so that it's somewhat intriguing that you would like to hear me that as to how it is in the middle of the Middle East. The recently signed Pak-Saudi pact has aroused considerable interest and attention at the regional and global level. Pakistan, ever since its birth, has been a close ally of Saudi Arabia. I think we all know that, and it is so evident and is so apparent. And there is a strong relationship and mutuality of interest between the two countries. Saudi Arabia being the heartland of Islam and a dominant Muslim and Arab country, is a source of great attraction and strength for Pakistan. Saudi Arabia has provided Pakistan considerable financial assistance and diplomatic support, and in the past, and continues to do so even till today. Pakistan values its relationship with Saudi Arabia as most consequential, and the two countries have developed strong economic, political, and strategic ties. Pakistan's leadership and the people at large greatly value the country's strong relationship with Saudi Arabia. This is a very strong point in our relationship with Saudi Arabia, because if the people are also extremely supportive of what the government policy is, then it's further reinforced. And I think the Saudis realize that, and it's very heartening. Saudi Arabia too considers Pakistan as a close and a valuable ally. The relations are rooted in the centuries-old religious, cultural, and commercial links between the two peoples. Over the years, the two countries have also succeeded in developing a unique synergy for mutual development. Saudi Arabia is home to the largest number of Pakistan expatriates, approximately 2 million, which is a very, very high number. Pakistan engineers, construction experts, and labor have played a crucial role in building infrastructure in the modern Saudi Arabia. Similarly, Pakistani doctors, bankers, entrepreneurs, academics, and financial experts have played a premium role in developing institutional infrastructure of the kingdom. In the process, the kingdom has provided employment to Pakistanis ranging from high-tech urban professionals to unskilled laborers from the remotest part of Pakistan. The large pool of Pakistani professionals and skilled and unskilled manpower is a great asset for the kingdom. There is also a strong defense industrial collaboration between the two countries. Saudi Arabia has invested in Pakistan's defense industry, and Pakistan has supported Saudi Arabia particularly in munitions, drones, and armored systems, to advance Riyadh's Vision 2030's goal of localizing half of its defense production. Lately, in view of the changing military dynamics, Saudi Arabia and Pakistan have further consolidated their military cooperation, and the recent defense pact between them bears testimony to that. Moreover, Pakistan and Saudi Arabia have signed several agreements which reflect their shared Islamic values and renewed commitment to their common goals, and include the Friendship Treaty, Extradition Agreement, Agreement on Economic, Commercial, and Technical Cooperation, Security Cooperation, Bilateral Political Consultations, Agreement on Scientific and Technological Cooperation, Agreement on Security Cooperation, and few others. I've just named 12 of these, so you can understand the depth of our relationship with them. And I don't think we have such a relationship with any country which we have so many sort of mutual agreements. Above all, the Defense Pact is a critical development impacting the regional defense paradigm. The close bonding with renewed zeal between Saudi Arabia and Pakistan is likely to be viewed by the US, China, Russia, India, and other Muslim countries with great interest, and will always do so. Its impact is expected to be significant at the regional level. India will have to rethink the consequences of its hostile and aggressive policies towards Pakistan, for these could impact on its valued relationship with Saudi Arabia. I thought this was important, that our very learned audience must also keep in mind that how this relationship is valued, or what would be its impact on India when it takes action on Pakistan. Saudi Arabia traditionally have good relations with both India and Pakistan, could play also a role of easing tensions and facilitating peace accord between the two countries. I mean, I think this is some sort of an idealism on my part, but I thought it is worth mentioning because when things get that bad, we expect that friends of both the countries will play a very positive role in sort of ensuring that the tension between the two countries does not escalate to a point of a conflict. Clearly, financial and political support of Saudi Arabia, China, and other friendly countries is a source of great strength for Pakistan. But it is also disconcerting that even after 77 years of existence, Pakistan has not been able to achieve full economic autonomy. For me also, and for all of you, I'm sure, and for all Pakistanis, this is a source of sort of that we should work for, that we should get out of this economic dependence on other countries, however close we are to those countries. Seeking loans and grants from IMF, World Bank, and friendly countries, China, Saudi Arabia, has become the norm. It is time our leaders took a long-term view of Pakistan's destiny and pursue policies that would place it on a steady course towards stability and economic independence. Nations progress when the focus of their leaders is on education and building an infrastructure that promotes economic and technological progress. The deteriorating security situation with TTP, Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, gaining strength in border areas should also be a matter of serious concern for political and military leadership. Apart from countering the threat by boosting the security forces, the government should create opportunities for improving the economy and living conditions of those areas that are affected. This aspect has not received the attention that it deserves. Looking at the larger picture, our leadership needs to find ways of harnessing the power of new technologies to boost the economy. The quality of life of its people. We cannot afford to lag behind while the world moves on. Information technologies, IT, and new technologies such as development in space have revolutionized the way we think and the way we work. The ascent to the moon of the astronauts was no ordinary achievement. A few companies in Pakistan have moved in a positive direction and making efforts to stay abreast with the changes. But a much broader focus in this direction will contribute significantly in strengthening our economy. All these developments point towards giving greater space to young, educated personnel in policy making and implementation. I'm a great supporter of that, although my age is, I'm far too old, but I think, all we need now is to really support the younger generation. They also have to be drawn into policies for changing its culture so that the leadership can contribute in strengthening the country in accordance and harmony with the changing world. And it is the young people who really know how the world is changing because they are the ones who are following it much closely than the older ones. Relations with India are also on the freeze, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi has not been any different in his third term in office and continues to pursue the same hostile policy of isolating Pakistan. This is more the reason that Pakistan should further strengthen its ties with China and seek new avenues of cooperation with Saudi Arabia and other Middle East countries, so that, it builds pressure on India. On the surface, the deal has always been simple: financial support in exchange for military might. I'm talking of Saudi Arabia. Ever since the 1950s, Saudi Arabia has been providing Pakistan, whenever in economic distress, with a lifeline. At first small and symbolic, the aid gradually transformed into major support with Saudi Arabia sending oil at lower prices, making large deposits in Pakistani National Bank, and even bailing it out in 2018. They bailed out Pakistan in 2018. Pakistan too has been very supportive of Saudi Arabia and a guarantor of its defense. Since the 1960s, thousands of Pakistani troops have been stationed in Saudi Arabia to help build and train its forces and to present and to protect the royal family. This arrangement proved especially helpful in 1979 after the Iranian Revolution, which heightened KSA's fears of Shiite influence over the region. Tehran's potential for ideological export immediately positioned the kingdom and the newly established theocracy in a zero-sum geopolitical rivalry. In response, Saudi Arabia sought a potent Sunni counterweight, finding it in Pakistan's robust, disciplined, and regionally experienced armed forces. But the most important test for the alliance was yet to come. During the 1990 Gulf War, with Saddam Hussein's invasion of Kuwait, the Saudi royal family found itself with Iraqi forces sitting just across the northern border, fearing that Saddam Hussein might invade the kingdom next. As a response, 11,000 Pakistani troops were deployed to Saudi Arabia, effectively repelling any potential for an Iraqi invasion and marking a crucial sign of loyalty to the KSA. Since then, both countries have been closely cooperating, even in times when their leadership did not see eye to eye, as in the case of Yemen war. Their alliance has remained resistant to whatever challenges regional turmoil has brought. Gradually, the historical cooperation started transcending simple transactional security agreements. It became a strategic hedge. I would like you to listen to this a little more attentively. It became a strategic hedge. Saudi Arabia gained an implicit extended deterrence against regional rivals, while Pakistan secured economic stability and supply of oil, partially offsetting the volatility of its domestic politics. The deal also contributed in reducing the impact of India's hostile policies. Not that India has stopped its hostile policies, but it definitely, I think, while it pursues India's hostile policies, it has on its mind the fact that a country like Saudi Arabia is supportive of Pakistan, although they too have good relations with them. The deal between Riyadh and Islamabad was simmering at the cusp of signing for months. After the Israeli attack on Doha, the idea of American protection for its GCC allies vanished in the eyes of Gulf leaders. This power vacuum needed to be filled, and promptly on September the 17th, 2025, that means only a month back, the Strategic Mutual Defense Agreement between the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the Islamic Republic of Pakistan was signed. SMDA, which is the abbreviation of this, stipulates that any aggression against either country would be considered an aggression against both. The agreement includes the following. I just wanted to put across the salient features of this agreement. Joint deterrence and training, expanded joint exercises, and the real-time operational coordination to ensure both forces can move and fight as one if required. Defense industrial collaboration. Saudi investment in Pakistan's defense industry, particularly in munitions, drones, and armed systems, to advance Riyadh's Vision 2030 goal of localizing half of its defense production. Intelligence fusion, integrated intelligence sharing cells focused on counterterrorism, missile defense, and hybrid threats. The nuclear undertone, though neither side has confirmed it publicly, Saudi officials remarked that the agreement covers all military means. I am quoting, all military means, which could imply as expanding the scope of cooperation to include Pakistan's nuclear arsenal. The Saudi-Pakistani Defense Pact represents a strategic recalibration for Pakistan, elevating the role in the Arab world while reinforcing its global standing as a middle power and reliable security provider. Foreign Minister Aqdas, when he noted that other countries have since expressed interest in similar arrangements, this is very heartening, implicitly signaling that Pakistan is willing and able to project its strategic influence further by building additional defense partnerships with wealthy Arab states that lacks comparable security capabilities. He also said, that is Aqdas, that Pakistan's defense pact with Saudi Arabia could ultimately develop into an Eastern NATO if additional countries decide to join, underscoring Pakistan's role in leading and shaping the collective security framework of 57 Islamic nations. Moreover, the pact with Saudi Arabia reinforces Field Marshal Munir's vision of Pakistan as a resilient forces of Muslim world. These are his words that I am repeating, resilient fortress of the Muslim world. This is a concept once articulated by his predecessor, General Pervez Musharraf, who described Pakistan as a citadel of Islam, emphasizing that the nation must first be strong to serve the wider Islamic world effectively. The alliance with Riyadh also has crucial economic dimensions. Geoeconomics is central to Pakistan's foreign policy, including with regard to the Gulf, as illustrated by Munir's 223 commitment, General Munir's commitment to attract 75 to 100 billion in investments from Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, and Kuwait. In light of that commitment, a mutual defense agreement with the largest DCC member, which is, of course, Saudi Arabia, is of additional strategic relevance for Pakistan, namely by combining security guarantees with economic incentives. The pact not only strengthens bilateral ties, but also provides a pathway for Pakistan to address its severe domestic economic challenges through strategic engagement with resource-rich Arab partners. And I'm sorry to say that I don't think Pakistan is doing as much as it should and not taking as much advantage as it should to improve its economy while getting such assistance from these countries. The recent trajectory of the Pakistan-Saudi economic relations highlights the strategic logic behind Islamabad's approach. Saudi Arabia has provided billions of dollars in support to stabilize Pakistan's foreign exchange reserves. In October of last year, Pakistan signed MOUs for Saudi investment worth $2.8 billion, alongside a $3 billion loan to bolster its reserves. Pakistan also relies on Saudi oil supplies and financial support to meet the energy needs. This February, it signed an agreement with the Saudi Fund for Development to defer a $1.2 billion payment for oil imports by 1 year, easing fiscal pressure. Saudi Arabia is a key partner in upgrading Pakistan's refining infrastructure, including a $6 billion brownfield refinery project to produce cleaner fuels, although plans for a $10 billion greenfield refinery in Balochistan have faced practical challenges. The Defense Pact thus critically reinforces Pakistan's economic security by enabling it to leverage military ties to attract Saudi investment and provide protection guarantees for Saudi stakeholders willing to operate on Pakistani soil. A final major gain for Pakistan to come out of the Defense Pact with Saudi Arabia would seem to be in the enhanced deterrence this alliance provides it against India. The alliance puts New Delhi in a difficult position as Islamabad has now effectively become the security guarantor of one of India's key energy suppliers. Saudi Arabia is India's third largest source of crude oil, and together with Iraq and UAE, accounts for 60% of its imports. The kingdom and the other GCC members also collectively form India's largest trading bloc, exceeding 100 billion annually. Logically, this should make Indian military action against Pakistan less likely, as it would turn a heretofore dependable Saudi economic partner into an adversary. Thank you.
Thank you, General Saab, for this very comprehensive and sweeping analysis of the subject. And now it is my great pleasure to call on my colleague, Dr. Akda Sabzal, to speak on the subject.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to extend my profound gratitude to Dr. Masuma Hasan and to Dr. Tanveer Khalid for their gracious invitation. I'm honored to have been given the chance to speak at this prestigious institution, the Pakistan Institute of International Affairs. I'm also deeply honored to share the stage with Lieutenant General retired Talat Masood, also the former Federal Secretary, Ministry of Defense Production. Ladies and gentlemen, we gather today at a pivotal moment. The post-World War II international order, once consolidated by the Cold War's end and prevailing sense of singular, triumphant path, now shows its fractures. We are giving way to a new multipolar era of strategic competition and economic realignment. Against this backdrop of global recalibration, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has taken historic and unprecedented transformation through its Vision 2030. This blueprint for national renewal has, in less than a decade, diversified its economy, unlocked its vast potential, and offers profound lessons in visionary governance and strategic execution. It is within this context of shifting world and Saudi Arabia's demonstrable success that we must now turn our focus to the pressing challenges within the Pakistani economy, from fiscal stability to energy security to export-led growth. We must chart a concrete path forward, leveraging the nascent joint economic framework established by the Mutual Defense Agreement to foster partnership for shared prosperity and enduring strength. Right, so the next section of my remarks is titled The Fractured Age. In his book, The Fractured Age, Neil Shearing of Capital Economics argues, and mind you, this is a brand new book, that the world economy is entering a period of fracturing. He contends that this is not a full-scale deglobalization, but rather a splintering into rival blocs of the US and China. He argues that US-led bloc, which is composed of many advanced economies, as you know, holds significant economic advantage. It has larger share of global GDP, control over fundamental technologies, and dominance of the world's financial markets. At market prices, the US bloc's share of the global GDP is currently at 68%, against China bloc's 26%. The author predicts that the most powerful nations will be forced to align with the US due to its security umbrella and markets. This would lead China, with its slowing growth stemming from an aging population and structural economic vulnerabilities, as the relative loser in the fragmented era. But hold on. This bullish outlook for the US is challenged by Martin Wolf of Financial Times. He argues that the US is undermining its own position through unreliable leadership, as exemplified by a foreign policy that weakens the very assets that form its foundation: trust, alliances, rule of law, and skilled immigration. Wolf finds the author of the previous book overly bearish on China. He suggests that its significant growth potential and capacity for policy change make a prolonged slowdown to 2% growth very unlikely. Ultimately, while the fracturing itself is accepted as reality, the question of which hegemon will prevail remains open. The most certain outcome is that a fractured world will be more dangerous and economically detrimental for all parties. Moving on to the next section of my remarks, titled Multipolar World. Vince Cable, drawing on his experience, again, this is a brand new book that has just come out, drawing on his experience as an economist and UK minister, analyzes the defining geopolitical shift of our era, the rise of China and India and its impact on the West. He argues that the central issue is how the world navigates the relationship between these two emerging Asian giants and the established Western powers. And here's the reference to the book. In his new book, Eclipsing the West, China, India, and the Forging of a New World, he outlines 3 potential future scenarios. First, a bifurcated world where a democratic global West, including China, now some might have something to say about that, but his contention is that a democratic global West, including China, confronts an autocratic bloc. So that's the first scenario. Second, a multipolar world with no single hegemon, where both China and India continue to rise. And third, a functional world where the post-war order is reformed to accommodate these new powers. I think this is where he's thinking about a reformulation of the permanent 5 members of the Security Council. So this is really the backdrop that I wanted to present in front of you. This is how the world is looking to our major intellectuals at the moment. And this is where Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030 comes in. Ladies and gentlemen, Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030 is a pioneering model for national transformation. This comprehensive blueprint, launched in 2016, synergizes fiscal reform, massive strategic investment, and social modernization to unlock the nation's potential. Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030 represents a comprehensive and ambitious framework for national development that extends well beyond conventional economic diversification. It is structured upon 3 key foundational pillars. Number 1, a vibrant society. Number 2, a thriving economy. And number 3, an ambitious nation. Its implementation is distinguished by a synergistic combination of disciplined fiscal management, monumental strategic investments, and progressive social reforms. This is operationalized through specific quantifiable objectives, for example, raising the private sector's share of GDP to 65%, increasing the share of non-oil exports, reducing unemployment, and cultivating new economic engines in mining, tourism, and renewable energy. Underpinned by hundreds of initiatives, from fiscal reforms like value-added tax to societal shifts like greater female labor force participation, Vision 2030 is systematically forging a more resilient and knowledge-based economy. So now here I'm going to get into a little bit of detail about Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030. Ladies and gentlemen, Saudi Arabia provides a clear example of successful financial reform. Starting in 2016, the government introduced new sources of income that did not rely on oil. These include a sales tax, what is called a value-added tax, which started at 5% but was later raised to 15%, as well as taxes on unhealthy products and fees on foreign workers. Now, these changes have had a major impact. Money earned from non-oil resources has doubled since 2016. By 2024, nearly half of government's total income came from these non-oil sources, a huge shift from the past. In early 2025, non-oil income was almost equal to oil income. This was, again, partly because of the sales tax brought in a lot of money, while cuts to oil production made oil revenues temporarily smaller. Moving on. And as part of its financial reforms, the kingdom has changed how it spends money to support a more diverse economy. Instead of using most of its budget on government salaries and general subsidies, it is now prioritizing investment in key areas like infrastructure, education, and tourism. The country has limited the increase for public workers while pouring massive investment over $1 trillion into major projects under its Vision 2030 plan. Its national budget now focuses on long-term goals like building houses, developing mega projects, and supporting small businesses. In short, the strategy has shifted from using oil money to pay for large public sector investing, for a large public sector to invest in building a stronger, more self-sufficient, which is more self-sufficient for the future. And now I'm just going to present some final thoughts on Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030 before I move on to Pakistan. Ladies and gentlemen, Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030 has brought about an incredible wave of change. To attract business, the government made it much easier for companies to operate by simplifying rules, updating laws, and allowing full foreign ownership in many areas. This worked. Saudi Arabia shot up in global business rankings and attracted record levels of foreign investment, especially in non-oil sectors. The country also heavily invests in its people and entrepreneurs. It has created support systems for small businesses, modernized education to focus on science and technology, and launched training programs. A major social change has been the empowerment of women, allowing them to drive and work more freely, which has unleashed a huge wave of new talent and female business owners. The government is also encouraging companies to hire Saudi citizens by offering subsidies and reforming the system for foreign workers to make job market more efficient. Another key strategy is shifting, and I think all of these points are very relevant and pertinent in the case of Pakistan, especially the kind of things that we heard in media coming from the recently concluded conference in Islamabad that was sponsored by the Pakistan Business Council. You must have been listening to some of the policy positions coming out. But another key strategy is shifting state-owned assets to private hands through sales and partnerships. This raises money and improves efficiency. A major example was the historic public stock offering of oil giant Aramco, which also made the company more transparent. The goal is to use these funds for further development. And finally, to attract global companies, Saudi Arabia is now actively competing with its neighbors. It offers special long-term visas, a one-stop shop for investors, and incentives for big companies to move their regional headquarters to Riyadh. The country has also identified new industries for growth like mining and tourism, and for each sector, government's plan is to reform the rules, invest public money to get things started, and then actively recruit private and foreign investors to build it up into a major part of the economy. Here, towards the end of my remarks, I'm going to move to what I'm terming Pakistan Vision 2035. And based on the case study of Saudi Arabia's economic transformation under Vision 2030, Pakistan must focus on the following areas. Number one, fiscal sustainability. Now, many important steps have been taken to control the fiscal deficit in the last couple of years, but Pakistan's government remains under tremendous pressure to bring its fiscal house in order. On June 10, 2025, the federal government unveiled a budget with a 7% spending cut compared to the previous year. But nearly half will go to debt servicing, straining Pakistan's finances. Defense spending was also increased by 20% after the recent major clash with India in the month of May. BISP allocations have also been rising steadily over the years. Now, BISP, of course, as you know, is the Benazir Income Support Program. This year, BISP allocation was increased by 20% to 716 billion rupees. The government also aims to reduce the fiscal deficit to 3.9% of GDP. Not surprisingly, the FBR, Pakistan's Federal Tax Authority, has been tasked with collecting a whopping 14 trillion rupees. And here I'm just, in the interest of time, I'm going to move ahead to the second part of my proposal or plan that I am putting here on the table, and that is called institutional modernization. I think this is a very interesting idea that I'm going to present, and you might not have heard this before. So if you haven't been paying attention up till now, this is the time to, really focus on my remarks. Institutional modernization. Pakistan's policymakers need to look towards Saudi Arabia and Jamaica to find innovative ways of reining in fiscal spending. Now, why Jamaica? I'm going to explain that. After suffering from years of economic turmoil, Jamaica finally established an independent fiscal commission to monitor the country's adherence to fiscal responsibility laws. The commission is expected to carry out independent assessment of budget outcomes, perform independent fiscal analyses, and inform the public. So based on this, I'm recommending that the federal government as well as the provincial governments in Pakistan consider setting up independent and powerful fiscal commissions. These bodies would have the ability to carry out impartial assessments of budgetary outcomes and perform rigorous financial and fiscal analyses. And the last part of my recommendations today is titled Structural Reform. Like a battered ship that stops heaving after emerging from a perfect storm, Pakistan's economy has finally stabilized after 2 years. Pakistan's economic policymakers deserve credit for this economic stability. Nevertheless, the present economic situation can best be described as an unstable stability, meaning that the looming external and internal challenges can quickly take us back to the days when the economic future of the country appeared bleak. On the internal front, Pakistan's economy will need a needle-sharp focus on the fiscal side through more resource mobilization and privatization. The government would not only need to collect more revenue to ensure a primary fiscal surplus, but also bring the untaxed sectors like agriculture into the tax net. Not surprisingly, there are serious efforts underway to increase revenue collection through more digitalization at the FBR. A lot more work would be required to privatize some of the state-owned enterprises. Since success has eluded government on the privatization front, of course, that might be changing if certain policy responses are to be believed. The government may want to provide a fillip to privatization efforts by starting with low-hanging fruit, like the already profitable power distribution companies, and there is some talk of that happening very, very soon. So now I am going to conclude my remarks. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, the path forward for Pakistan, illuminated by Saudi Arabia's transformative journey, is clear. We must embrace a similar triad of disciplined fiscal governance, strategic investment in human capital and infrastructure, and a relentless drive to foster a competitive private sector. The lessons are not merely economic, but also philosophical. All of this is going to require a fundamental shift from short-term political management to long-term national stewardship and ownership. the establishment of independent financial commissions, the aggressive pursuit of privatization, and a reprioritization of spending away from untargeted subsidies and towards growth-enhancing sectors are not just policy options. They are urgent imperatives for survival and prosperity in this new fractured age. Remember the fractured age that I talked about in the beginning? Ultimately, the strategic mutual defense agreement with Saudi Arabia provides more than just a security partnership. It offers a foundational economic framework. This pact is our gateway to leveraging Saudi expertise, catalyzing investment, and integrating into the new supply chains. By mirroring the visionary execution of Vision 2030 with our own determined Pakistan vision, we can transition from a state of unstable stability to one of enduring strength. We can transition to enduring strength. And finally, let this agreement be the catalyst that propels us towards a future defined not by the challenges we survive, but by the prosperity we build together. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Akda Sabzal. And now I'll open the floor to questions. Ji Usmani sir.
I have a question from General Talat. Hello. Can you hear me? Hello? Yeah, no, better now. My question is actually two questions, but interrelated. The first question is about the mutual defense assistance to each other. The question is it available only if there is a declared war, or is it also available if there's a clandestine war? That's one question. And the other is, related to that, is that to what extent will either party go to come to assistance of the other?
I think it's a very good question. The point here is that, God forbid, if there is a war between India and Pakistan, we have to really see to what extent the Saudis and others who have such a strong relationship with us, including China, how they will react. But the fact is that certainly, I think, at least I am quite confident, and most of you would be, that Saudi Arabia would definitely play a very major role in seeing to it that the conflict does not escalate and they go back, even if they have moved their troops, etc. For the simple reason that it does not help Saudi Arabia, and it would elevate the position of Saudi Arabia to a higher position that they have such influence over the two. And also for the simple reason that it would affect Saudi Arabia itself and the whole of Middle East if this conflict really arises. So I think it is in their interest as well as in the interest of ours. So I think you should take their support very seriously. Sorry. Sorry, मैं भूल गया आपके दूसरा question.
It was interrelated.
To what extent?
To what extent?
Well, I think they will not send their troops, but I think they, as I said, they will definitely pressurize, and also use the other major international powers like US and China and others, because Saudi Arabia has got a lot of influence in US and other countries, and they would certainly sort of cooperate and collaborate with them, and also insist on them that how important it is, because this conflict will affect the region more than what it would affect the great powers, but it will also affect great powers. And I think you would also have in mind that it is the Chinese and the Americans will also, I think, cooperate amongst each other if a thing like this happens, because it is not in either the interest of either.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Dr. Saeeda Daud. I have a very simple, naive question, I think. Pakistan is a nuclear power, and it's a part of this arrangement now. Don't you think that Pakistan is being exposed to the enemies like Israel or India to be targeted? Iran was targeted by Israel recently, and nobody could do anything. In any case of such developments, is Pakistan safe in the hands of the Middle Eastern powers who are dependent on Pakistan's nuclear? Ji, I just want to ask that don't you think that Pakistan is being exposed exposed to the enemies like Israelis are after the Pakistan nuclear facilities and India also. In any such case, Israel attacked the Iranian nuclear facilities recently, and nobody could prevent them. So, don't you think that Pakistan is safe in this arrangement?
I have understood your question. The point is that I think Israel, you are also including Israel in this. They obviously have a much closer relationship with India and will also provide them probably some weapons and whatever it be, because they would have no inhibitions as far as supporting India is concerned. But at the same time, I would say that Israel, as far as my understanding goes, may be thinking that Pakistan, being a Muslim state, is obviously very supportive of the Arab countries, and especially those who are under pressure from Israel. But at the same time, Pakistan realizes the importance of Israel in the Middle East and would like to play such a role as to not escalate the conflict, but also to sort of moderate it.
Thank you.
डॉक्टर साहब, आपसे सवाल है। आपने भी कहा पाकिस्तान का पोटेंशियल इन ऑल इकोनॉमिक्स शायद बहुत बेहतर था और अब जो कुछ हुआ है, आपने जो प्रेडिक्शन की है कि ये होना चाहिए वो भी सब कुछ सही है। व्हाट अबाउट द गवर्नेंस? हाउ विल यू एड्रेस दिस इशू इन पाकिस्तान? यू आर कंपेयरिंग द गवर्नेंस ऑफ MBS with any Pakistani leaders, any Pakistani potential who can cater the same type of governance in Pakistan, and how will you address it? And how is it going to solve Pakistan problems?
सर, मेरा ख्याल में मैं इकोनॉमिस्ट हूँ, तो मैंने अपनी पॉलिसी प्रिस्क्रिप्शंस दी हैं इकोनॉमी के हवाले से, and that is my area of expertise, looking at the macro economy, learning from the Saudi experience and giving recommendations in the case of Pakistan. Of course, I have an opinion on what is going on in Pakistan, but I think since I'm not an expert on politics or governance, I don't think I can give much here, save for the fact that, of course, I would like to see different institutions of this country become to gain more strength compared to the past. Now, I'm not only pointing towards the one institution that everybody has in mind. Of course, Pakistan should have the strongest military in the world, but then we should also have a very strong and independent election commission. We should also have a very strong and independent judiciary, and we should also have a very strong and independent democracy. Now, how are we going to get there? I think that would probably be the topic of another discussion.
Assalamu alaikum, sir. Sir, my name is Hasan. I'm a member of this club. Yes, I would ask you, there are two questions. One is regarding the economic terrorism in Pakistan. You did not mention, you mentioned counter intelligence, but you can say what is your point of view in economic terrorism in Pakistan? Secondly, what would be the, you can say, the share of our GDP about the exports of aeroplanes which we are sailing, and their defense productions, or you can say defense equipments we are selling. So selling to other countries, like as we have sold JF-17 Thunder to Azerbaijan. So we hardly find any numbers in terms of GDP, in terms of dollars, or what is the amount revenue we collected in that.
So, first of all, just for clarification, what do you mean by economic terrorism?
Economic terrorism, as we all know, that is rampant in Pakistan. For example, for instance, as you address the fiscal challenges in Pakistan, but the spending challenges is also there, that what the provinces are being given.
नहीं, आप इसको economic terrorism कैसे कह रहे हैं?
So economic terrorism, because if you are given 100 rupees to make something, and you are
नहीं, मैं आप इसको या तो revert करें, otherwise I'm not going to answer this question. Because I think this is not a very nice term to use to describe something that you are describing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I would reword this in that way, that what is your point in, you can say, mal spending, or you can say unfair spending, or you can say the spending problems of Pakistan.
मैंने उसका, I've given my policy recommendation is to learn from a country like Jamaica and to set up fiscal commission not only at the federal level but also at the provincial level, so that every expenditure can have a final review. I recently wrote in Dawn a very interesting article on the recent elections in Bihar called Jungle Raj. I would invite you to go and take a look at that piece, in which I pointed out that how, especially at the time of elections, there can be this virtual vote buying, through giving money to women in Bihar. And I pointed out that we must take stock of this situation, because in the coming elections, we might see all these different expenses exploding. So I think in that sense, this idea of a fiscal commission, both at the federal level and the provincial level, is very, very important. Now, to answer your second question, I don't have the numbers of what type of export proceeds we are obtaining from the export of certain strategic arms or what have you. And I think it's perfectly okay to not have numbers, because there are certain amount of secrecy involved when countries deal militarily or in terms of defense spending between countries. So that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This is Ahmed Zaid. I work as a development practitioner. So my question is regarding the fiscal commissions you have mentioned as a part of institutional modernization, as you said it. So my concern or question is that how do you envision these commissions to operationalize? For example, in public health, we have multiple, I would say, development partners or agencies, UN agencies, Gavi is there. So is there any, I would say, international institution that is available there who can partner with the government or maybe the private sector to bring in the expertise, the requisite expertise to train our, people in achieving that?
अहमद, अब आप बैठ जाएं.
Thank you.
मैं इसलिए कह रहा हूँ कि ये मेरे स्टूडेंट हैं, ये बताया नहीं इन्होंने. तो अब आई विल आंसर दिस क्वेश्चन, बट द नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन जो है ना, वो जनरल साहब के वो डायरेक्ट कीजिएगा, क्योंकि ही इज़ ऑल्सो हियर एंड यू मस्ट टेक हिज एक्सपर्टीज़, उसका फ़ायदा उठाएं. नेक्स्ट उनकी तरफ. तो अहमद मेरे स्टूडेंट हैं, तो इन्होंने बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग क्वेश्चन पूछा, हाउ आर वी गोइंग टू ऑपरेशनलाइज दीज फिस्कल कमीशंस. तो ये जो the fiscal commission that was operationalized in Jamaica that I have pointed out, that was done in partnership with the IMF. So we have a blueprint, we have a manual, and we now have a use case where something like this has been done. And I think this might be a very interesting idea. Now, what are going to be the final contours of a fiscal commission? I'm not so sure. But I think we have to probably start thinking in those terms in order to control our runaway unnecessary expenditures so that we get our fiscal house in order. So thank you very much, Ahmed. And it's nice to see you.
Thank you very much. My name is Arshad. I am with the Trade Development Authority of Pakistan. And my question is to General Saab that with, you've so comprehensively, for a person like me, described the geopolitical movements and the economics of this region, how they are going. My question is that in the middle of all this, we have seen Pakistan posturing sometimes towards US and sometimes towards China. And is that wise? Is that okay? Is that strategically beneficial for us? And my question to Dr. Saab is partly जो आपने फरमाया था कि 77 साल से हम we are getting all kinds of financial aid and everything. So the path forward, which partly addresses the operationalizing, the next economic aids that we are going to receive, and we will need them, is there a way to incentivize the operationalization of these reforms, or is there a way of, should we incentivize it, or should we put some penalties on non-performance? Thank you.
Yeah. I think it's a very good question. The point is that I think Pakistan has been very it has been a very intelligent or a very good policy on the part of Pakistan to have good relations with both America as well as with China. Because if you have only a very close relationship with China and you are in fact saying that you belong to the Chinese camp and that you are dependent on the Chinese, and at the same time you are inviting the hostility of America, because they would think that you truly would be supporting China in all times, whether it is peace or it is a time when it is a crisis. So I think Pakistan has been, in a way, fairly wise to pursue a policy in which it was able to balance its relationship. Because as you would recall, that when we developed our relationship with China, I think the Americans and the Western world was very apprehensive that we were falling in their lap. And then they were then promoting India and other countries, including Bangladesh, to sort of, getting closer to them. And this would have been a center of rivalry between China and the US. So thank God, I think there was a lot of wisdom in the policies that were pursued. And we came to the conclusion that we must have, of course, very good relations with China, but at the same time, also relations with the US. And I think all these two major powers have appreciated that. And we also have good relations with Russia.
I think the question was very interesting. In part, I addressed that in the answer to the previous question. So I think in the interest of time, we can talk offline if that's okay with you, and we'll take the next question.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम जनरल साहब, मेरा नाम सईद अहमद है, मैं सिंध गवर्नमेंट से रिटायर्ड हूँ. My question is that US is having bases in Saudi Arabia. In this pact we are having with Saudi Arabia, how our neighboring Muslim countries see this, such as Iran and Afghanistan?
The other Muslim countries,
our neighboring Muslim
countries reacted.
No, see it.
See. I think it's a very good question in the sense that I think Saudi Arabia, being a very powerful country, as you know, has greatly contributed in a way, helped Pakistan. That because of Saudi Arabia's deep interest in Pakistan, countries like Qatar and UAE and all have also developed good relations with Pakistan. Although they would have also intrinsically developed good relations with Pakistan because of mutual interests. But at the same time, when they also see that Saudi Arabia is promoting or is a very close ally of Pakistan, they too would. But we must not forget that India also plays a very important role. And as far as these countries are concerned, because of its size, because of what it buys from them, and how it can influence. So you will find that Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Qatar, and all these countries, whereas they have good relations with us, they have also very good relations with India.
What about Iran and Afghanistan?
Iran, yeah. As far as Iran is concerned, it's a very, very, I would say, a relationship which has to be navigated with a lot of, they have to be very clever about it. Because the relationship with Iran is a very complex and a very difficult business. Because Iran is very friendly with, of course, India also. But at the same time, it is not only that factor. The Shia-Sunni factor is also very important. Because if we get too close to Iran, then obviously we cannot, Saudi Arabia and other countries will become very suspicious. So your question is very good, but Pakistan, I think, has done a great job by navigating its relationship with these countries in a very smooth manner.
Last question.
Thank you, Dr. Saiba. My name is Farooq Amin Qureshi. I am former police chief Karachi and a student of Dr. Masuma. My question is to the Honorable General Sahab, that Pakistan and Kingdom of Saudi Arabia are close ally of United States. Then the defense pact between both must be with the consent of USA. Without the consent of USA, it's not possible that this pact would have been implemented. So Israel is very close to USA, and the same is Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is very close to USA. Then there are remote chances that Israel will ever attack Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Then the defense pact is against which countries the defense pact is being to be implemented. My question is to the General Sahab and to the Dr. Sahab, that the high unemployment is in Pakistan. The highest ratio of young generation is without employment. So what will the impact of this defense pact on the economy of Pakistan for the youngsters of this country? Thank you.
Well, I think it's a very good question in the sense that how will Pakistan navigate its relationship with all these major Muslim countries, especially Saudi Arabia, when we also have good relations with Iran, or we have a very large Shia population and also the Sunni population, which has good relations with Iran and business relations, and also they would like to visit Iran and so on and so forth. So I think Pakistan has done, as I said probably earlier also, has done a good job, that whereas it has extremely close strategic relationship with Saudi Arabia, but at the same time it has also maintained a reasonably good relationship with Iran. There was a period when the relationship between Iran and Pakistan was getting a little sour because of some misunderstanding and also because of the conflict within Middle East. But I think Pakistan navigated itself very well. And now, if you come to think of it, Pakistan at this point of time has a very strong relationship with Saudi Arabia, very deep relationship with Saudi Arabia, but it's also got a reasonably good relationship, not of the level of Saudi Arabia, but certainly a reasonable relationship. And if there is any misunderstanding that is being aroused, then Pakistan would make sure and go to the Iranians and try to get it cleared so that, it does not want to invite any hostility or maintain its relationship with Iran. Somebody is raising.
जी शुक्रिया. मेरी तरफ भी आपका एक क्वेश्चन एड्रेस हुआ था. I think it was a very interesting question आपने पूछा. I think you probably have in mind the recent labor force survey that has come out very recently, and it is showing that the levels of unemployment in Pakistan are rising. And I think this is very concerning for a lot of people, including myself. So I think where our policymakers have somewhat stabilized the economy is not showing growth. And without growth, you cannot have job creation. And unless you have job creation, the massive number of young people who are entering the labor force every year, girls, boys, men, women, I mean, the situation is not going to dissipate unless and until somehow we can unleash the economic potential of the country. And that, I think, can only be done by institutional modernization, not just developing a fiscal commission, but by developing new ways through which young people can engage in, value creation. So one example of that would be I recently purchased a vehicle in Saudi Arabia. And I was sitting with somebody, as I am right now with you, in a cafe. This is not a cafe, but soon
we
will
will
go for
give you
tea.
some tea.
I think that was a Freudian slip. So I was sitting with somebody in a cafe, and both of us had our phones out, and I purchased that car from that guy sitting right there. No government body physically was involved. So that's the level of digitalization that they have been able to do. And this is very sad in a certain way, because Pakistan was one of the first movers in the entire region when we developed our unique identifiers post 9/11, when Nadra was established. But somehow we lost that momentum. So I think we really need to regain that momentum. We have the potential, but I think for whatever reason, our focus has been elsewhere. So I think we really need to focus on institutional modernization. The government has recently set up a Pakistan Digital Authority that has tremendous potential, because just like Vision 2030, it has 3 pillars: digital economy, digital nation, and digital governance. So I have very high hopes from what the government is trying to do, and I hope that they can remain focused and sincere in trying to unleash the economic potential of 250 million people of Pakistan. Thank you.
I will now wrap up this session. And I would request both the distinguished speakers, since you both had written texts, to give me a copy each, because we will publish this in our journal, in Pakistan Horizon. In the next issue, that will be the January issue. And this session has been so remarkable because of the sweep of issues that have been addressed. Both the speakers spoke not only about this strategic mutual defense agreement between Saudi Arabia and Pakistan, but they both gave so much background material which added to the substance and importance of our discourse. And on behalf of my colleagues and the Institute, I want to thank both of them. Pakistan has navigated diplomatically extremely well. And Pakistan's diplomats are among the best in the world. And we can be proud of the policy. It's not easy to keep the balance between the United States of America and China and various other smaller players. But in what has happened in recent times, Pakistan has gained a lot of stature, especially in what has happened in the Middle East. It has played a very proactive and very intelligent role. So with these few words, I want to thank both the distinguished speakers for their time and for their contribution. And it is with great pleasure that I invite all of you to have a cup of tea with us. Thank you.